I think Trump is one of the most destructive presidents and human beings in my lifetime. I think this republic is at real risk, this country being unrecognizable. And I have no patience for people that want to indulge it. I can't stand the crony capitalism. I can't stand all these supplicants that are sitting there bending the knee to this president. I can't stand the universities that have done that, the law firms that have done that, the individual corporate leaders that have done that, the other governors, maybe Democrats and Republicans that have been complicit at this moment. This guy is reckless. He's wrecked this country. We'll not have a fair and free election if we don't continue to fight. That's what matters to me, seriously. I'm the future ex-governor, and who the hell knows what happens the rest of my life, except one thing I know that matters in the rest of my life is I have to look at my kids in the goddamn eye. I mean that, seriously. That's not like a politician thing, to look them in the eye and say that not a peril of being judged, not to have lived in the...
Fill in a blank on almost every topic, creates the problem, and then tries to do a make-believe as if you're all perfect little sheep. And you're going to go on with it to be the hero in his own Marvel movie. He initiated those raids. He significantly increased the scale and scope of those raids. That's why he wants the National Guard. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guardsmen and women now being dispersed everywhere, sprinter vans, unmarked, people with masks, running in, rolling over. Some case running into cars, 6-month-old kid, a 3-year-old child in the back of the car, left. So, spare me, Mr. President, that he's sincere, but if he is, that happened because of you. It happened because of the American people, because they stood up. And that should give us some optimism.
The courts allow you to ultimately send in the National Guard into Chicago and Portland. Do Democrats not have reason to be concerned that there are long-term plans by this administration to keep U.S. military or the National Guard in American cities, like what we're seeing here in Washington?
Why should they be concerned about the federal government offering help to make their cities a safer place? They should be concerned about this. They should be concerned about the fact that people in their cities right now are being gunned down every single night. And the president, all he's trying to do is fix it. And there has been a complete smear campaign by the Democrats and the media, quite frankly. I was reading Political Playbook this morning, one of the most inside the Beltway newsletters you can find. And you guys are framing this like the president wants to take over the American cities with the military. The president wants to help these local leaders who have been completely ineffective in securing their own cities. And we have already seen there's a positive formula for that. Look at Washington, D.C. The murder rate has declined significantly. Our streets are safer. People who live here feel safer. All of you in this room, I know you do, you just won't admit it. And it's a proven system that works, and the president wants to make America's cities safe again. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Listen, we need to talk about what's happening right now because every single day brings another devastating blow to Donald Trump's authoritarian project, and today was absolutely no exception. Gavin Newsom just delivered another massive legal victory against Trump's regime, and watching Caroline Leavitt have a complete meltdown about it was honestly satisfying in ways I can barely describe. But this story is about so much more than just one court ruling. This is about the bigger fight we're in, the fight for the soul of our democracy, and why resistance actually works when we commit to it. Before I dive into the specifics of this latest bombshell, I want you to hear directly from Governor Newsom because what he said today needs to be heard by every single person who cares about this country. His message cuts right to the heart of what we're facing and why we cannot afford to be complacent or accepting of Trump's destruction. Newsom didn't mince words. He called Trump one of the most destructive presidents and human beings of our lifetime. He said this republic is at real risk, that our country could become unrecognizable if we don't fight back. And he expressed zero patience for people who want to indulge Trump's behavior or bend the knee to his authoritarian impulses. By the way, I am trying to do my best to gather all the information I can for you and share it with you. Please leave your likes and comments, and I would be grateful if you subscribed. Let's continue. Newsom specifically called out what he called crony capitalism, the parade of supplicants lining up to kiss Trump's ring. He blasted universities that have capitulated, law firms that have surrendered their principles, corporate leaders who've decided that profits matter more than democracy, And yes, even other governors, both Democrats and Republicans, who've been complicit in this moment. He said Trump is reckless, that he's wrecking this country, and that we won't have fair and free elections if we don't continue fighting. And then he brought it to the most personal level possible. He said he's the future ex-governor, that who knows what happens the rest of his life, but one thing he knows matters is being able to look his kids in the eye and say that he didn't fail to live in this moment, that he didn't allow himself to be judged as someone who stood by while democracy crumbled. That message right there is exactly what Democrats need to be saying more forcefully and more consistently. This isn't about normal political disagreements. This isn't about policy preferences or ideological differences. This is about whether we're going to allow an authoritarian takeover of our institutions, or whether we're going to fight like hell to preserve what's left of our democratic system. Newsom understands that, and his willingness to say it plainly, to put it in stark moral terms rather than hiding behind political niceties. That's what leadership looks like in a crisis. Now, let me explain what Trump is actually trying to do, because understanding his strategy is crucial to resisting it effectively. Trump fundamentally wants to break up government, but not because he thinks government is inherently bad or because he's some principled small government conservative. That's the lie he tells his base. The truth is that Trump thinks government that doesn't serve him personally is bad. Government that holds him accountable is bad. Government that protects ordinary people rather than enriching him and his billionaire friends is bad. So he's systematically trying to dismantle every institution, every agency, every check on his power that stands in the way of unlimited corruption. Has Trump done anything to reduce the massive subsidies that corporations get? No. Has he cut the handouts to billionaires? Of course not. He's expanded them. What he's attacked relentlessly is the judiciary when it rules against him, Congress when it investigates him, independent agencies when they try to enforce the law, and any institution that dares to say no to his demands. Trump wants you to believe that government that doesn't work is actually government working for you. He wants you to think that chaos and dysfunction are evidence that he's draining the swamp, when in reality he's just redirecting all the resources to himself and his cronies while leaving everyone else with the wreckage. This was always the point of Project 2025. This was always the plan that Trump and the Heritage Foundation put together. Remember when Trump said he wanted federal workers traumatized? That wasn't just about making government employees feel like they should quit or find different careers. That was about sending a message to all of us that government exists to serve the rich and powerful, and that Trump will use it as a weapon against anyone who opposes him. He wants you demoralized. He wants you to feel helpless. He wants you to believe that resistance is futile and that his takeover is inevitable. But here's the crucial thing you need to understand. That's not true. We have real power to fight back. Trump does not own the presidency in the sense that he can do whatever he wants without consequences. He does not own Congress, even with Republican majorities. He does not own the courts, despite his Supreme Court appointments. And he absolutely does not own the military, no matter how much he tries to use them for his political stunts. Trump wants you to think he has total control because that makes his authoritarian project easier. If we believe he's unstoppable, we stop fighting. And if we stop fighting, then he wins by default. But fighting back is exactly what we need to be doing, and it's what Gavin Newsom has been demonstrating works. Before we get into the latest legal victory, listen to what Newsom said about Trump's immigration theater, because it perfectly captures the pattern we're seeing. Trump creates problems, then tries to position himself as the hero solving problems he created. He initiated massive immigration raids. He significantly increased their scale and scope. That's why he deployed hundreds and hundreds of National Guard members across the country, sending them out in unmarked Sprinter vans with masks, rolling over people in raids, leaving 6-month-old babies and 3-year-old children in the backs of cars while their parents are taken away. And then Trump has the audacity to pretend he's responding to a crisis rather than manufacturing one for political purposes. Spare me, Newsom says. If Trump's now claiming to care about the humanitarian impacts of his own policies, it's only because people stood up and fought back and made it politically costly for him to continue. And that should give us optimism because it proves that resistance works. Public pressure works. Standing up and refusing to accept Trump's narrative works. Governor Newsom is absolutely right when he says Trump wants us to think the military is under his complete control, that we should all live in fear of him, that his authoritarian takeover is inevitable and unstoppable. But we've seen over the past weeks and months that Trump's power is not inevitable. What's inevitable is his unpopularity. What's inevitable is the political crisis he's creating for himself, and the fracturing of MAGA as more and more people realize he's not delivering on his promises. What's not inevitable is Trump's ultimate takeover of our entire government for himself and his oligarch buddies. That's something we can prevent. That's something we can fight against. Trump does not own us. He is a temporary occupant of office who becomes less powerful every time we stand up and fight back and demonstrate that he doesn't have the authority he expects us to surrender to him. That's why Governor Newsom's strategy of taking Trump to court every single day on every possible front has been so important. And he's winning. Again. And it's absolutely infuriating Caroline Leavitt and the entire Trump administration. Here's what happened. A judge ruled that the Trump administration kept National Guard troops in Los Angeles illegally and ordered an immediate end to that deployment. This is huge. Trump diverted these service members from their actual public safety operations and deployed them against the very communities they took an oath to serve. The court's ruling was unmistakably clear. The federalization of the California National Guard must end. Trump doesn't get to use military forces as his personal political props. He doesn't get to occupy American cities with troops to create the illusion of crisis and justify his authoritarian impulses. When Caroline Leavitt was asked about this ruling, she had a complete meltdown that was equal parts revealing and pathetic. The reporter asked a straightforward question. If courts allow Trump to send National Guard into cities like Chicago and Portland, don't Democrats have reason to be concerned about long-term plans to keep U.S. military forces in American cities? Leavitt's response was to attack the premise of the question entirely. Why should anyone be concerned about the federal government offering help to make cities safer? She demanded. She claimed people are being gunned down every night and Trump is just trying to fix it, and that Democrats and the media are running a smear campaign against him. Then she really went off the rails, claiming she was reading Politico Playbook and that the media is framing this like Trump wants to take over American cities with the military, when actually he just wants to help local leaders who've been completely ineffective. She pointed to Washington, D.C., claiming the murder rate has declined significantly and streets are safer, and everyone in the room knows it but won't admit it. She called it a proven system that works and demanded to know what's wrong with wanting to make American cities safe again. Everything about that response is gaslighting and projection. The idea that Trump sent National Guard troops to any city to actually keep it safe rather than to create problems and generate footage for his political narrative is absolutely laughable. We saw what happened in Los Angeles when Trump deployed troops. We saw what happened in Portland. In Los Angeles, powerful protests demonstrated that communities were not going to let Trump harass them. In Portland, it got wonderfully comical with people showing up in T-Rex costumes to mock Trump, people dressed as frogs doing dances. The whole thing became a festival of resistance, showing that Trump is fundamentally a clown, weak and insecure and purposeless, except in his ability to generate fear. That's the key insight. There was no legitimate purpose to these deployments. Trump's logic is completely cynical. If he goes in and causes problems, he can point to the chaos and claim it proves cities need him. If he goes in and there are no problems, he takes credit and says it was all because of his strong leadership. But what actually happened was communities banding together to tell Trump to get the hell out of Los Angeles and that he was a joke in Portland. So no, Caroline, as always, you are completely wrong about everything. But this is all part of Trump's gangster state strategy. He's trying to intimidate us. He's trying to make us believe we don't have power and that we should be fearful of him. And that premise is fundamentally untrue. We see this playing out in every part of Trump's government right now. The Justice Department is being weaponized to go after political enemies. Trump is attempting to prosecute anyone who opposes him. He pardoned a narco-state dictator who was convicted of flooding America with hundreds of tons of cocaine. And Trump's DOJ is being run by thugs like the guy who told everyone to be ready to tell judges to go screw themselves, that they weren't going to follow court orders. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse laid this out perfectly in his recent interview. The president of Honduras was sentenced to 45 years after being convicted by a jury of bringing a minimum of 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. This guy used his position as president to provide cover for drug dealers, essentially running a narco state, and Trump pardoned him, completely free, the only president in American history who would do something like that. White House pointed out that people like Roger Stone and Matt Gaetz were involved in pushing for this pardon, and that somewhere, some money almost certainly changed hands. We'll find out eventually, but it sure doesn't look good. And here's the kicker: the creepy guy Trump put in the Justice Department. The one who told everyone to be ready to defy judges. The one Trump's team shoved onto the Third Circuit Court of Appeals while contempt hearings against him were stayed by Trump-appointed judges. That guy was actually one of the prosecutors who got the conviction against President Hernandez. So Trump can't even claim this was some corrupt Biden prosecution that needed to be reversed. His own DOJ thug worked on the case. There's no logic to the pardon on the merits, which means we're back to the obvious question. Where did the money change hands? What was the deal behind the scenes that Trump is using presidential immunity to cover up? This is the type of intimidation and corruption we need to be calling out relentlessly. The idea that Trump has unlimited power and can continue taking more unless we stop him is the foundation of his entire authoritarian project. But here's the reality that should give us hope. Trump is losing lawsuits at about a 95 to 97% clip. That's not a guy with the kind of power his propaganda suggests he has. Yes, Trump has bought and corrupted the Supreme Court. Yes, that court is illegitimate, just a bunch of political right-wing hacks wearing robes. And yes, every Democrat thinking about the presidency should also be thinking about impeaching those corrupt justices and holding them accountable. But the Supreme Court is not the only court. It's not the only place where we fight, and we're winning in those other venues constantly. Governor Newsom continues to win. Governor Pritzker continues to win. We're seeing victories from governors across the country who are willing to stand up to Trump's authoritarianism. We see victories every single day when we fight Trump rather than accepting his narrative or surrendering to his intimidation. The National Guard ruling is just the latest example. Trump thought he could federalize state troops and use them for his political theater without consequences. A court said no. Trump thought he could ignore judicial orders and constitutional limits. Courts keep saying no. Trump thought he could weaponize every institution without anyone fighting back effectively. But we are fighting back, and we're winning far more often than the media narrative suggests. This is why the work we do matters. This is why staying informed and engaged and refusing to be silenced matters. Trump wants us demoralized. He wants us to give up and accept that his takeover is inevitable. But it's not inevitable. His failure is what's inevitable if we keep fighting. His unpopularity keeps growing. His coalition keeps fracturing. His legal losses keep mounting. His authoritarian project keeps running into constitutional walls built by people who refuse to surrender. Gavin Newsom understands something crucial that every Democrat and every person who cares about democracy needs to internalize. This fight is personal. It's not abstract policy debate. It's about whether we can look our children in the eye and say, we did everything we could to preserve democracy when it was under attack. It's about whether we stood up or stood by when it mattered most. And the answer to that question will define not just our political future, but our moral legacy. Trump is destructive. He's reckless. He's wrecking democratic institutions and constitutional norms. But he's not invincible. He's not inevitable. And he's not going to succeed in his authoritarian takeover if we refuse to let him. Every lawsuit we file, every protest we organize, every time we call out his lies and his corruption and his abuse of power, we make it harder for him to consolidate control. Every governor who stands up to him, every judge who rules against him, every member of Congress who refuses to be intimidated, they're all part of building the resistance that ultimately defeats authoritarianism. So keep fighting. Don't let them silence you. Don't accept their narrative that Trump has unlimited power. Don't surrender to fear or intimidation. Support the governors and legislators and activists who are resisting. Call your representatives. Show up to protests. Donate to organizations fighting Trump in court. Use your voice on social media and in your communities. Vote in every election, especially the upcoming midterms. And most importantly, refuse to normalize any of this. What Trump is doing is not normal. His attacks on democratic institutions are not normal. His corruption is not normal. His authoritarian impulses are not normal. And we cannot treat them as normal or inevitable or acceptable. The moment we accept this as just how things are now is the moment we've already lost. But we haven't lost. We're winning more than we're losing. And if we keep fighting, we're going to win enough to stop Trump's authoritarian project and begin rebuilding the democratic institutions he's trying to destroy. Governor Newsom is showing us the way forward. Stand up, fight back, take them to court, refuse to comply with illegal orders, protect your communities, use every legal tool available, don't be intimidated, and above all, don't give up, because this fight is winnable. Democracy is worth defending, and the America we want to leave to our children is worth fighting for with everything we've got. That's what we're doing on this channel every single day. If you want to support that work, subscribe, leave a like, drop a blue heart in the comments if you made it to the end. Let's keep fighting together. Until next time, don't let them silence you, and I'll see you in the next one.